Today's episode is brought to you by Card Kingdom, and for a limited time, all pre-orders of $25 or more with a Modern Horizons booster pack or box will get a sheet of stickers featuring not just the Card Kingdom logo, but some of your favorite Modern decks for free. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another daily dose of Modern Horizons spoilers. And we have some sweet ones to talk about today. New cards, also some interesting reprints, which means we're going to jump right into it, start talking about these sweet new cards. Before we do, a super quick reminder, if you haven't already, it would be so cool of you if you could take a second, click that subscribe button down at the bottom of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk some Modern Horizons, starting with a new rare, Endling. So Endling, 4 mana, you get a 3/3. Kind of a hill giant, not that exciting. Zombie shapeshifter, you can pay a black, give it menace, play a black to give it death touch, pay a black to give it undying, all until end of turn, or pay any mana to give it +1, -1, or -1, +1. So this card, if you've been playing Magic for a while now, you probably recognize the callback to morphling. So morphling was printed 20 years ago, just over 20 years ago, and at the time, morphling was one of the baddest creatures in Magic's history. Like, creatures weren't that good back in the day, spells were great. Morphling was like the bomb. It was so good, so good 20 years ago. So ever since, over the last 20 years, Wizards has slowly been finishing a cycle of morphlings for each color. Started with morphling, then we got torchling, then we got thornling, then we got brightling. So Endling, probably the most exciting part of this card is it finishes a cycle that has been 20 years in the works. So black finally has a member of the cycle. The downside is traditionally these cards aren't really as good as they used to be. Compared to how morphling was 20 years ago, these cards are okay. They're kind of cute. Brightling saw a little bit of legacy play in Ether Vial decks, and I think that Endling probably meets a similar fate. The problem with Endling, well, let's talk about the good news first. Endling, it is a zombie, which means if you're playing like a zombie commander deck, this is definitely in the conversation. It's not super exciting, but it fills out your zombie curve. It can kind of get evasive. It can take down big creatures. Undying is kind of cute. You can like sacrifice it to your Rule Color Gisa, and then it comes back into play if you give Undying. So there's some cute tricks you can do with Endling. The problem as far as constructed play though, like Modern, is it kind of dies to all the removal. Endling, if you just run this out on turn 4, Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push, Path to Exile do it. And if you look at Modern, cards that are 4 mana or greater, in the creature realm, they almost exclusively do something when they come into play. Huntmaster of the Fells, Thought-Knot Seer, Restoration Angel. If you're playing a creature that is 4 mana or more, it's doing something immediately. So even if your opponent kills it, you're going to get value out of it. Endling kind of fails this test pretty hard. And I know some people are going to say it's the dies to Doomblade argument, except that doesn't apply to this situation because Endling literally doesn't die to Doomblade. But still, it does get picked apart by a lot of removal. I guess you can wait and play it at like 5 mana and leave up the Undying ability to protect it from a removal spell that's not Path to Exile. But really, I think this is more a flavor card. I would be literally shocked if this was Modern playable, but it's really awesome that the cycle that started 20 years ago has finally been complete. The good news, as far as black cards go, is we got some other strong black cards today, and this one might actually have a chance in the Modern format. Dead of Winter is kind of a powerful sweeper. 3 mana, all non-snow creatures get -X until end of turn, where X is the number of snow permanents you control. So if you think about Dead of Winter, if you just play snowlands, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, you're already getting Anger of the Gods. Doesn't have the exile clause, but does get around some other stuff like protection abilities or whatever because of the -X indestructibility. So Dead of Winter is already kind of on curve with a sweeper that sees a lot of play in Modern. If you're willing to just play snow-covered lands in your deck, and that doesn't even include the build around it factor. If you want to build a snow deck with Oran Vipers and Icevein Kodals and Boreal Druids, not only can you pump up the -X ability on Dead of Winter, but you're able to not sweep your own board because it doesn't hurt snow creatures. So I'm going to say, I don't know if Snow's going to work in Modern. We have definitely gotten some more support, although Snow.deck was pretty far away from playable heading into Modern Horizons. We have got a lot of support. Will it be enough? I don't know. But if there is a card that's going to make it worth it to play a bunch of Snow permanents, Dead of Winter is one of those cards. Like, this is one of the reasons to build Snow.deck in the Modern format. So if Snow is good enough, it's going to be in large part because Dead of Winter is so good at messing up other creature decks if you're playing Snow.deck. However, it gets even better for black cards. We got a reprint, a black reprint, and this one is really exciting. Unearth. So Unearth is a staple in Pauper. It is somewhat playable in Legacy, has never been in Modern. 1 mana, sorcery speed, return a creature with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Plus, if it's bad, you can cycle it away for 2 mana. So Unearth is really exciting. The power of Unearth is kind of twofold. So number one of the tricks that's used a lot with Unearth in Legacy is Snapcaster Mage. You can use Snapcaster Mage and then eventually unearth your Snapcaster Mage. And then when Snapcaster Mage comes back into play, you can snap back the Unearth and get another creature, or you can snap back another spell. So you can get some really sweet reanimation grindy loops with Snapcaster. The other thing is, the most important part, it's just 1 mana, which means if you can reanimate a Knight of the Reliquary, your Tireless Tracker, Mantis Rider, basically anything that's 3 mana, you are getting a 3 mana spell for 1 mana. So you're kind of getting plus 2 mana. It's like a ritual almost. Yes, there's risk, your graveyard could get exiled or whatever, but when you reanimate something that costs 3 for 1 mana, you're getting a good deal anyway. So I think that Unearth is going to be Modern playable. I am very excited for this. I'm excited for it in Snapcaster decks. I'm scared of it against Death Shadow decks. Like, Death Shadow is already milling over Death Shadows and Snapcasters, and these other cheap threats, they can just unearth it, get back a Death Shadow. That is a frightening effect, especially when you also have the Snapcaster value built in, plus maybe some sort of mid-rangey, graveyardy, Satyr Wayfinder, mill over my Tarmogoyf so my Tireless Tracker, value type deck could emerge. So I am really excited for Unearth in Modern. This card is very strong, and I would not be surprised to see an Unearth deck develop in the Modern format. Next on our list, we got another super cool reprint, this one at Mythic. Kess, Dissident Mage, and this card, oh boy, it is a sweet one. So you probably know it, 4 mana in the Grixis colors, 3/4 flyer, and then during each of your turns you can cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard, and then it kind of is like Flashback. If the card would go to your graveyard, you exile it instead. So Kess is basically like a Snapcaster Mage, except instead of being an enter the battlefield trigger, you just want it to sit out on your turn, and it has some upsides. It's a Snapcaster Mage that dodges Lightning Bolt, for example, thanks to 4 toughness, and it gives you a Restoration Angel body. A 3/4 flyer is not nothing. It blocks Mantis Riders, it's a real clock in the air while giving you the graveyard value. So Kess, it's going to be really interesting to see how good this is in Modern. My guess would be the easiest home right off the bat, some sort of Grixis control deck. You got Thought Scours and Thought Seizes and Fatal Pushes and all these cheap spells that you can just keep flashing back turn after turn while you're beating down with your Kess. So I think that's a really easy home for Kess. The other important part of Kess is Kess was originally in Commander, and Commander, it was printed as one of the commanders where it was only in foil. So there's been some issues with Kess, similar to Nexus of Fate as far as tournament play. Kess, it's not a staple in any tournament format, but it does occasionally show up in Legacy decks. So having copies in Modern Horizons means for the first time we're going to have non-foil Kess. And Kess was one of those cards like Nexus where people were getting DQ'd or game losses or having to replace their real cards with proxies from a judge because the foils would warp and then you could tell where your Kess was in your deck. So that's the other big upside. So we get a really sweet reprint that is probably going to see play in Modern. I would be surprised if people don't at least try Kess. The value, if you could protect it and just have it sit out, turn after turn after turn, flashing back a spell like Snapcaster every turn on a big flying body, that is a really good card. Throw in that it's solving a problem where there were only foil copies in existence, and Kess is a perfect reprint for Modern Horizons. Next on our list, we got a couple of other reprints, Nether Spirit and also Future Sight. So Nether Spirit and Future Sight, they are cards that do have some pedigree and are traditionally powerful, although I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do in Modern. So Nether Spirit is mostly a card that is used in kind of like Pox style decks, in Legacy, where if your Nether Spirit is in your graveyard and there's no other creatures in your graveyard, you get it back for free on the beginning of your upkeep. So decks play this as your finisher. Like, you play a bunch of Liliatas and Wastelands and Poxes and maybe some Mutavaults as additional creatures, or Mishra's Factories, and then you kill your Nether Spirit, discard it to Liliana, whatever, and it comes back, and after you deplete all your opponent's resources, you just beat your opponent down with this 2/2. I don't know if this same plan can really work in Modern. In Modern, you don't have Wasteland. It's a little harder to do the full-on resource denial plan, so we'll see. It's definitely a cool card to see more copies of, and in the right shell, it is a powerful recursive finisher that just keeps coming back, attacking, blocking. So we'll see if a Modern deck can be built around it, but definitely a cool reprint with sweet new art. And then, as far as Future Sight, it's basically the original Experimental Frenzy. Like, it does the same thing, essentially. You can play the top card of your library. Instead of looking at it, it's revealed to everyone. The upside is you can still play cards from your hand with Future Sight. We've seen Experimental Frenzy take off a little bit in aggro decks like Affinity-style decks or combo decks we've messed around with in Modern. Can Future Sight do the same thing? It's one more mana, and it's also triple blue mana, which is a bigger issue. Frenzy, pretty easy to splash in basically any deck with Modern mana. You're not going to be splashing Future Sight. Is the harder mana cost and being one more mana enough to make up for the fact that you get to play cards from your hand? Is that enough of a benefit to play a Future Sight? We'll have to wait and see, but it is a powerful card traditionally. We're missing some of the traditional combo pieces, like Sensei's Divining Top works really well with Future Sight, banned in Modern, but Experimental Frenzy's success in the format makes me think that maybe there will at least be a deck that will give Future Sight a shot, because if you build your deck around it a little bit, there's a very realistic shot that you can play 2 or 3 or 4 extra cards each turn, just like Experimental Frenzy, which is very powerful. Next on our list, we got another Suspend card, Crashing Footfalls. So this is our green Suspend card. Suspend for 4 turns for a single green mana, and then when it comes off Suspend, you get 2 4/4 Rhino creature tokens with trample. So basically, you suspend it on turn 1, you wait for it to tick down, the end result is you get 2 Stampeding Rhinos for a single mana. So that sounds good. 2 Stampeding Rhinos for 1 mana. That's a fine deal. That's 8 power and toughness with trample across 2 bodies. So that part of it's good. The time is a cost, though. Like, waiting that amount of turns in Modern, even if you suspend this on turn 1, there's a pretty realistic shot you're just literally going to be dead. Or if you're not dead, your opponent's going to have, like, Teferis, and they're going to have Primeval Titans, and they're going to have Karns, and just massive things that are like 2 Stampeding Rhinos. Like, that's cute. So I think that that's the problem. The good news is you can cheat it into play, the same way as we do other cards without a mana cost. As Foretold Electro Dominance, now Collected Conjuring. So there are plenty of ways where as early as like turn 2, or maybe even turn 1, like Electro Dominance, Simian Spirit Guide, make 2 4/4s on turn 1, that is something. The challenge is, most of these cards, like as Foretold, Electro Dominance, probably Collected Conjuring as well, the reason that they see play is they're cheating into play things that are literally game-ending. Like, if you cheat a Living End into play, you're probably just winning the game. If you cheat a Restore Balance into play, it pretty much just wins you the game by itself. Crashing Footfalls, I mean, it can win you the game, but it's not as guaranteed as a huge Living End or a Restore Balance, getting all your opponent's land and wiping their hand. So I'm guessing that Crashing Footfalls probably won't show up in those decks. I think it's a cool card. The other awkward part is it actually is kind of a non-bow with Restore Balance in Living End, because you could just theoretically already be playing a Restore Balance or Living End deck and just slot this in as a backup free card. However, with Restore Balance, that's going to be your opponent gets to save creatures on the battlefield, because you're putting creatures on the battlefield. With Living End, you're going to wrath away the tokens anyway, so it doesn't really fit in the free spell decks we already have, and I don't think it's as powerful as a payoff as Restore Balance or Living End. So my guess is it's a fun card, it's a cool card. If you want to play Rhino, Tribal, and Commander, throw it in, but I would be surprised if it really showed up in Modern. Next on our list, we got not 1, but 2 ninjas, Mist Clan Naga and Ingenious Infiltrator. So let's start with Mist Clan Naga, because this is an easy one. Mist Clan Naga, it's fine. 3 mana, you get a 3/1. Can ninjutsu for 3. When it deals combat damage to a player, you get a token that's a copy of it. Obviously, if you can keep getting in hits, it's going to grow and grow and grow, and you're going to make 1,000,000 of them and win the game. But I actually think this is the least exciting of the 2 ninjas. The one I'm excited for is Ingenious Infiltrator, which is basically an upgrade on Ninja the D-Powers, very similar to Ninja the D-Powers. 4 to cast, 2 to ninjutsu. Yes, you need black mana, but the upside is you get an extra toughness, which is nice, and instead of just drawing you a card when Ninja the D-Powers deal damage, it does that whenever any ninja you control deals damage. So if you have more ninjas, you could be drawing 2 or 3 or 4 cards as you're dealing combat damage, really refueling your hand. So I think the other exciting part about this is it now gives us 8 copies of Ninja the D-Powers, which means you can kind of go all in on the blue-black ninja tempo deck. Play your Changeling Outcast on turn 1, your Judge's Familiar on turn 1. Turn 2, odds are you're going to have one of these in hand. You attack, you get it back, you draw a card, you get down a relatively reasonable threat that if your opponent doesn't deal with is going to keep drawing you cards, allowing you to pull ahead, draw more counters, draw more removal, draw more ninjas. So I am really excited to try ninjas in Modern, and I think if ninjas are going to be a real thing in Modern, Ingenious Infiltrator is one of the big reasons why. The card is already good on its own, and if you can make it work in a ninja deck with other ninjas, it can get really out of control. Like, picture Ingenious Infiltrator and a Ninja the D-Powers. You get in a hit with both of them, you're drawing 3 cards as you're dealing damage, refueling. It's so powerful. So this is the ninja I am most excited for from the set, at least as far as Modern play is concerned. Next up, we have Kaya's Guile, and this is kind of our Orzhov cryptic command, I guess you could compare it to. So 3 mana. In Orzhov, you get to choose 2 abilities of each opponent sacks a creature, exile all cards from each opponent's graveyard, create a 1/1 white and black spirit token with flying or gain 4 life, and if you entwine and pay 6 mana, you get to do it all. You get all 4 abilities. So 2 of the abilities for 3 mana, all the abilities for 6 mana. So this is sort of reminiscent of Cryptic Command, but the black-white version of it. Yes, you're not countering things and bouncing things and tapping creatures, but you're doing what black and white does. Exiling graveyards, making spirits, gaining life, sacking creatures, and I think that Kaya's Guile is actually a pretty powerful effect. Like, if you look at the abilities, the 2 big ones that stick out are the top 2, really. Like, getting to make your opponent sacrifice a creature and exiling the graveyard, that can be really relevant in a lot of matchups. Any way to squeeze the main deck graveyard hate that is also fine if you're not in a graveyard matchup, that is a big deal in Modern where there's so many graveyard decks. And then the other 2 abilities, if you need a blocker, you can make a spirit. That's fine. Maybe a Death Shadow's about to smash you for lethal, and your opponent has 2 of them, so the sacrifice effect doesn't do it. You can also gain life, which Sacred Nectar is not a playable card, but if there's one thing we've learned, it's that incidental life gain, stapled onto already reasonable effects, is incredibly powerful, and I think that's the power of this card. If you look at this card, the evergreen abilities are basically making your opponent sack a creature and making a spirit. Those are always going to be okay, although a 1/1 for 3 mana, not good. And then, if you happen to be up against a graveyard deck, the Exile the Graveyard is a lifesaver, potentially game-winning if you run into Dredge or Arclight Phoenixes. And then, if you run into Burn or another aggro deck to gain 4 life, that is also very powerful. So I think that Kaya's Guile actually has a real shot in Modern. It is very similar to Kolaghan's command, where, yes, none of the abilities by itself equals something that you would want to pay 3 mana for. But when you combine together all of the abilities and how they are all relevant in different matchups, and toss in the fact that in the late game you just get them all for 6 mana instant speed, that is a really powerful card. So I would not be at all surprised if decks like Esper Control maybe want a copy or 2 of this to hedge against graveyard decks and burn decks and just make your opponent sack a creature worst case, or like the black-white control decks, kind of like Gideon Tribal with a bunch of Lilianas. Kaya's Guile seems great there as well. Removal, graveyard hate, a chump blocker to keep your Planeswalker loyalty high, life gain against burn. So this card, I think it's good. I think it's very good. I don't think it'll be 4 of in any deck in Modern, but it does enough different things in enough different matchups and does it efficiently enough that I think this is definitely in the conversation. Worst case as a sideboard silver bullet, where sacrifice, good against bottles, life gain, good against burn decks, exile and graveyard, good against Dredge and Phoenix decks. Best case, it shows up in the main deck because it's relevant in enough matchups. So a very strong charm-like card or command-like card coming in Modern Horizons. Next up, we have Throes of Chaos, and this card's just funny. I don't think this card's really good, but the card has Cascade. It is 4 mana, It has Cascade, so you cast it, you reveal cards, so you have something with less converted mana cost, get to play it, and then it has Retrace, so you can cast it from your graveyard if you also discard a land card, so it literally does nothing, but at the same time, it literally could do anything. It can hit anything from your deck, and you could repeat it every turn, again and again and again and again, so this is more of a goofy fun card. I would be surprised if it actually saw play. I guess if you're really desperate to, like, Cascade into something, we do see, like, Cascade into Living End type tricks, although 4 mana is a little more than you want for that. You'd rather have 3 mana Cascaders, but we'll see. I would be surprised if it really saw play, but I love how this card does nothing, but also has potential to do basically anything. Can hit any card in your deck that costs less than 3 mana. So Goblin Oriflame, oh my goodness, this card is awesome. This card, I love so much that they printed this card. So here's the history of this card. I gotta tell you a little funny story for it to make sense. The card itself, you play it in an aggro deck, but Goblin Oriflame, it's a reference to Orcish Oriflame. So Orcish Oriflame, you can see the alpha version here. The alpha version looks exactly like Goblin Oriflame. The problem is, the alpha version is actually a misprint. Orcish Oriflame's actual mana cost is 4 mana, but they messed it up, so Goblin Oriflame is not only a sweet and cheaper version of Orcish Oriflame, it's calling back to a Wizard's punt or misprint from the very first days of Magic. So even though I don't think this card will really see play, although I guess you could play it as like an Anthem in something like 8-whack and aggressive Goblins deck, I love that it calls back to this myth sprint from 25 years ago, way back when Magic was first becoming a game. Otherwise, we got some more slivers. They're fine, not super exciting. We got some more snow stuff. Ice Kid Golem, 1 mana 2/2. Yeah, it's fine. You gotta pay snow mana for it. Arcum's Astrolabe is kinda sweet. It's like a 1 mana prophetic prism, but you gotta use snow mana to cast it. Worthy snow payoffs, ways to get more snow permanents on the battlefield. Spell Snuff, kind of a bad counter spell. Cancel with upside if you're almost dead. Sergovian Angel, a funny callback to Sarah Angel, being a 1 mana 1/1 with Flying and Vigilance. Webweaver Changeling, kind of just a random changeling. Valiant Changeling, kind of interesting. Costs 1 less to cast, up to 5 mana discount for each creature type among creatures you control. So basically, if you play a changeling on turn 1, you can cast this for 2 mana on turn 2 and get a 3/3 double strike. And a 3/3 double strike for 2 is actually a pretty powerful card. Is it powerful enough to make it worth playing bad changelings on turn 1? Probably not in Modern, definitely in Limited, but it's cool that it's all creature types and you can take advantage of that as well. Otherwise, we got a bunch of cards that probably should have been in the Lord Windgrace Commander deck. If you remember, when Lord Windgrace Commander came out, there was a lot of complaints that it didn't really have the land matters theme that was promised. Like, Lord Windgrace cares about lands, but the rest of the cards in the deck, it was just like Jun good stuff. Well, now we're getting a bunch of land matters cards, perfect for Lord Windgrace. Nintugo Cultivator, it is a reprint, kind of cool though. Ruination Rioter, it can deal a lot of damage. If you can get a bunch of lands in your graveyard, it deals damage to any target equal number of lands in your graveyard. So 20 lands, 20 your opponent's face. If you can somehow mill over your entire deck, it should get the job done. And then Order Scale Guardian, if you could cast this for 2 mana with the discount and have a 4/4 flying haste for 2, that's actually legit. And remember as well, outside of Lord Windgrace Commander, we have a lot of fetch lands in Modern. Like, decks are naturally filling their graveyard with lands as they crack fetches, so you're kind of naturally going to get some lands in your graveyard. If you build around it a little bit more, it doesn't seem that unrealistic for Ruinacious Rider to be a 2 mana 2/2 that's dealing like 4 damage, 6 damage when it comes into play, and Orscale Guardian coming down like turn 3 or turn 4-ish for 2 mana flying haste, a better Mantis Rider. So we'll see if anyone can build around those decks in Modern, but worst case, Wizards is fixing the mistakes they made with the Lord Windgrace Commander deck and giving players plenty of ways to upgrade that deck into an actual lands matter deck rather than just random Jun good stuff like it was to begin with. Anyway, those have been our daily Modern Horizons spoilers for today, so let me know what you think. How good is Endling? Is that just a cool callback to Morphling, or can it actually see play in the format? What about Dead of Winter? Can Snow.deck be a real deck in Modern? Will that be a part of it? How about Unearth? Is that going to be scary in Modern? I have high hopes for that card. Am I wrong? Am I overestimating the power of Unearth in the format? Speaking of reprints, what about Kess Dissonant Mage? Can that be a staple in Grixis Control or other decks? How about Nether Spirit, Future Sight? How do you use those in Modern? Crashing Footfalls. Is making 2 Rhinos for 1 mana enough, even if you gotta wait 5 turns or 4 turns to do it? How about the new ninjas? Can ninjas be a real tribe with Ingenious Infiltrator joining the crowd? How about Kaya's Guile? How insane is our new charm / command for Modern in the Orzhov colors? What about Throes of Chaos? How about Goblin Oriflame calling back to Wizard's Misprint? The slivers, the changelings, the counters, all the lower rarity stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.